we're suffering. Not only us, but the American people as a whole.
Having looked at this historic perspective as you've laid out, one has to ask the questions about today. In addition to the inner cities and the trauma there, which disturb you, I know, there's a situation that is going on not only nationally but globally. Greed, corporate greed, and it is forcing a lot of things that are exacerbating, many are saying, the trauma in the inner cities. And now we have this thing called massive unemployment. And so young brothers are really floundering in the inner cities. They have no way to make a living. It's destroying the household. What do you have to say about observations that are being made like that?
There is a verse in the Quran that reads, corruption has appeared on the land and the sea on account of what men's hands have wrought, that he, God, may make them taste a part of what they have done. Perhaps they may return to better conduct in words. Greed is the corruption of the United States government first. We have to start at the top, because the corruption, the criminal behavior at the top is manifested in the streets of America. The violence at the top is manifested in the streets of America. You have men in business suits, but they're criminals in the way they think to rob other nations of their wealth and power and assassinate leaders that do not lead according to the interests of corporate multinational corporations. So this kind of policy that has been a part of the government of the United States of America now has endangered the government itself, because greed and special interests and powerful lobbies control the U.S. Congress. So the U.S. Congress is not the Congress of the American people, it is the Congress of special interests. And when special interests can spend billions of dollars to influence legislation that benefits the special interest, but not necessarily the mass American people, then the government is caving in from the top. And now recent polls show that only 21% of the American people, or the popularity of the Congress, has sunk to 21%. Well, now you're fueling anarchy in the country. And this is why these militia groups that are angry with President Obama, angry with the government, angry with the administration, angry with bailing out the criminals. The international bankers were criminal in the toxic paper that they gave to unsuspecting American people, and an awful lot of black and poor people could get into a home that is their natural desire to improve their condition. But when the interest rates went up and the mortgage rates almost doubled, then foreclosure. So the masses of the people that are losing their homes, losing their cars, losing their 401ks, losing any health benefits because they're losing their jobs, because greedy international corporations that got their benefit from America started shipping jobs overseas to cheap labor markets, then sending the product back to America, selling it at high prices to increase the bottom line.
They call that outsourcing of business.
Yes.
Of jobs.
But now it is producing the destruction of the United States of America. There is no country that cedes manufacturing to some other place. Every country has a responsibility to feed, clothe, and shelter its people. But under globalization, they're destroying the ability of countries to feed, clothe, shelter. Years ago, Gil, if I came to you in a suit, the suit would have a sign, made in America. The shirt would be made in America. My underwear would be made in America. The shoes that I wear would be made in America. Today, you can't find that anymore. And manufacturing is in China. Manufacturing is in India. Manufacturing is in Brazil. But America has lost its manufacturing base. So now what do? We're a service-oriented economy. So where do black children who drop out of school, who are not interested in this pap, I call it porridge that they're being offered as education, where do we fit in this economy? We don't. And because we don't fit, then drugs and gangs and crime, starting from the kindergarten, our children are being maneuvered into the justice system.
There's a growing hue and cry about the amount of money that is being spent in wars overseas. It started in the 60s with Vietnam and Korea, and it grew with the incursions into Iraq. And now there's Afghanistan that is percolating. What is your analysis of this sequence?
We should never have been in Iraq or in Afghanistan in the first place. I read from French authors of a book, I can't recall its name, that in July of 2001, members of the Taliban came to the United States to meet with members of the U.S. government. The discussion was not the women in Afghanistan and the burqas that they wore. The discussion was an oil pipeline by Unocal, Dick Cheney of which owns some shares in it. This oil pipeline was to come from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and those areas above Afghanistan, through Afghanistan, Pakistan, into the Arabian Gulf, and then to the world. According to these writers, the Taliban were offered a carpet of gold or a carpet of bombs. When the Taliban refused to allow the pipeline to come through Afghanistan, this is July now. By September the 11th, we have the death and destruction of the World Trade Center. Then, within a few days, just a few days, it's these Arabs, and it's Mr. Osama bin Laden, who was in Afghanistan. So the leader of the Taliban, Mullah Umar, was given an ultimatum by President Bush. Osama bin Laden did this, give him up to us. Mullah Omar, being a Muslim, asked President Bush, show us the evidence of his guilt of this, and we will turn him over to you. President Bush said, we're not negotiating with you, and the bombs fell on Afghanistan.